What's going on, everybody? My name is Gallagher. I've been playing Kendama at the professional level for over a decade, and I have won 6 world titles. In this video, I'll be telling you how I do every single trick in the 2025 Battle at the Border Pro Open Tricklist if I were competing in this division myself. Trick number 1, inward lunar, 0.5 inward flip tap, inward lunar, in. The main point for this trick is to make sure you really have enough speed when flipping it inward to tap right here. A lot of people mess up this trick if their inward flip, like this, is too soft. And if it is too soft, it's not going to come around fast enough for you to get a nice solid tap in order for it to come all the way back to land on inward lunar. In the pro division, everyone is skilled enough to do this trick, but the common mistake looks something like that. People think they can get a nice tap back if they use their knees, come up very slowly, and do everything in super slow motion. But the reality is, even if you're able to tap it, it doesn't guarantee it's going to come all the way back if this flip right here isn't fast enough. Notice how if I flip it relatively fast, it comes back at relatively the same speed. And this is much better than going slow, because when you go slow and it doesn't come around at all, you have a 0% chance of landing the trick. But once you flip it fast, get a nice tap back, the tap is going to come around, giving you a chance to actually land it. And that's all you really want. Lastly, just to be safe, I would tap with the side of the tama, not anywhere around the hole. There's a chance that when you do go for the tap during this trick, it's going to be tapping inside of the hole, which could kill or redirect the trajectory of the Ken when it's coming back. So to be safe, I would just tilt the tama hole to the side and tap on the side of the tama in order to control every variable you possibly can. Trick number 2, 2-turn, 2-tap, juggle spike. The only real tip I have for this one is to make sure your pull-up 2-turn is fast. Again, we have to focus on the quickness here. A 2-tap is a relatively simple trick if we're looking at it from this angle. And to make this trick feel as similar to a normal 2-tap as possible, we want to get this turn up very quickly. Some people might have a habit of pulling this up too slow, and that means they're tapping either up here, maybe down here. By the time they get the second tap off, they're not going to be able to juggle very cleanly. You want it to feel as normal as possible, as similar to a normal 2-tap as possible. So give it a little extra crank on the pull towards you for the 2-turn, and try and aim for your normal area where you tap in. For me, this is somewhere around my chest, right around this area right here. It's hard to tell in the camera, but you'll know what it is for yourself. Tug up with some force, get those 2 taps off, and juggle the spike. I'm expecting this one to be one that's hit 3 times out of 3 by a lot of participants. So make sure you get really consistent at this one. Trick number 3, KENFLIP, juggle, KENFLIP, spike. This trick is very straightforward. The main thing you're going to want to replicate is the juggle spike right here. You want to make sure you're doing an earth turn with the tama. So notice how I'm pushing the tama up, making it do a full earth turn on this normal juggle spike here. You want to do this same thing for the KENFLIP, juggle, KENFLIP, spike. I recommend doing the first KENFLIP at the same time as the pull up, so it's going to look something like this. It's not a bad thing if you go 1, 2, and then juggle late, but I personally think this first way is a lot easier. So pull apart with the KENFLIP, you want the tama to come up to a nice height above the Ken. And then from here, since the tama is going to ideally still be facing down, all you're going to do is rotate it up, give it a nice earth turn push with your hand, like so, and then get another laid in for the spike. A mental cue I have with this one is getting the tama high up into the air. If it's high, not only one has time to come around and do an earth turn to the spike, but it's more separated from the Ken, meaning that you have a less of a chance to get tangled up by the string. Other than that, guys, it's just a lot of practice with your ball control and getting that perfect earth turn to come around every single time. Definitely try to aim for 3 for 3 consistency on this one. It's going to be one that's going to be matched a lot in the competition. Trick number 4, stunt plane, 0.5 flip tap, stunt plane. This one, you're going to be holding stunt plane grip the entire time. Your tama is going to be facing down the entire time, especially when you come up for the tap. You're not going to move anything right here. This one is just a single tap. So you want to just make sure you're flipping this part out with enough force to make sure you get good contact with the tama right here. And then from there, guys, just like the first trick with the tap on the inward lunar, you want to have this one as well come up with a lot of speed. So once you tap it, it will naturally go with a lot of speed back, and you'll be able to comfortably stump plane it from above. Also, one thing that I've noticed helped me is to not do it so far out to the side. For example, I'm left-handed, I'm tapping on the left side of my body. If you're right-handed, it'd be on the right side. I would actually keep it in front of you, a little more center than you normally play. I tend to think this helps me get a nice accurate tap, so the Ken can actually go back straight, and it makes for an easy spike at the end. So the main tips are coming out with speed right here, and then keeping your play centered. Trick number 5, airplane, triple flip swap, down spike fast hand. This one you can either do two ways. You can either 1, spin the tama, or 2, floating the tama straight up. The best ways I've seen people attack this kind of trick in a competition is either with a spin or tossing it straight up like this. There are not many ways to practice this trick other than actually just going for it itself. There are usually stepping stones or building blocks, or maybe a trick you can break down into 2. This one is such a unique skill, a swap into a down fast hand. It's one that just needs to have the reps be put in. My one tip for this trick is to make sure you catch the Ken down here by the spike. You want to get your hand as close to the bottom of the Ken as possible. So what that means is not catching it on top right here by the base cup. This is going to make the fast hand really difficult for you, and most likely not clean. But if you're able to capture the Ken by the cup right here, this is for me ideal down spike positioning right here. This is going to make for a super clean fast hand. It's going to be practically seamless. Trick number 6, candlestick, inward juggle candlestick, trade spike. For this one, it's pretty simple. If you don't have your inward juggles on lock in normal Ken grip, it's going to be very difficult to execute one in candlestick grip. And then second thing, I definitely recommend using a Kendama with a decently long spike. I promise you that if you use a Kendama with a short spike, it's going to make this trick 20 times harder. I feel comfortable having my tama on the side with the string facing away from me, away from my hand, because I think this just gives me a little reassurance that the string isn't going to tangle me up. Last thing, make sure you're able to get the Ken high up into the air with this inward juggle. You're going to need a lot of precision to grab the candlestick, and if you send it flying too forward, too fast, maybe too low, the chances of you grabbing and recovering from this position and then getting it to land on the cup, again after all that, is next to none. So get some airtime on this candlestick juggle here. Readjust, take your time after you land it on the base cup, and go for the spike. Trick number 7, opposite hand lighthouse, trade spike. Not much to really say about this trick other than to hone in your opposite hand skills. I'm not sure if you can do one turn lighthouse. If I knew that was a rule and knew that you could do that, for sure, right now, I would recommend that all the way. I personally think, especially with today's string length, that one turn lighthouse with your opposite hand is much easier. But again, once you're using your opposite hand, stick your opposite foot out with it. So for me, right hand is opposite, stick right foot out a little bit in front of me, and then go for the lighthouse. When you're here, make sure to pull towards yourself just like you would for a normal trade spike. Get all of your fingers onto the tama. Make sure all of your fingers are touching the tama. As you can see, all of my fingers are on the tama here. Bend down slowly, pull towards yourself, and spike it. This one just takes a lot of practice. Trick number 8, bird, juggle bird, spike. For me, there are 2 ways to do this trick. 1, you ghost the tama up before you juggle. You're not earth turning it, you're not doing anything special. You're literally just ghosting it up, having it do a 0 turn. So when you go for the juggle bird, you can earth it the full way yourself with your hand. This is how I do most of my juggle birds for fun when I'm playing by myself. I tend not to think about it much, and I'm able to get this pretty consistent. So I definitely support this way. But personally, for competition strictly, I would do it like this. Earth turn, earth turn. The reason why I would do this for competition is because I think it makes a better chance of you not being tangled by the string. The string is harder to get tangled on your hand or on the Ken. I think it is just overall out of the way more. So if you're able to do a nice earth turn and then earth it back one more time with your hand, I think this is going to play a huge part in your success of getting this 3 times out of 3 on the stage. Just my opinion, both ways work. Pick which one is most comfortable for you and just stick to it, commit to it for BATB. Trick number 9, airplane, 1.5 cushion lighthouse, in. This trick is a little bit more difficult than a normal cushion because cushions, you're trying to stop at here. You're trying to stop when the base cup is facing directly towards you, so it can just fall back and go into the spike like so. For this one, cushioning it requires a little more precision and accuracy. Instead of cushioning it right here when the base cup is facing straight towards you, you want to aim for somewhere around here. You want to really cushion it when it's almost facing straight up. So the difference is very subtle. It's very, very slight, but just getting that target in your mind, having a specific area to aim for, I find that just that shift in thinking alone helps me up my consistency when performing this trick. I consciously am thinking, just wait that half a millisecond longer. Aim for right here. Aim for the edge of the base cup. More or less, it's going to be the same feeling as a cushion, but you're just going to want to be just a tiny bit more delicate. As always, don't try and go tap the base cup forcefully. Let it come to you. Let it fall gently on the tama. You're not doing anything. You're not pushing back with any force. You're just letting it hit and then catching the landing. Let the Ken come to you. Trick number 10, lunar laser flip in. Super simple tip on this one and only tip for this is to change the positioning of your hand before you go for the laser flip. I first get it on lunar. Notice this is normal hand positioning for a regular lunar, but for barrel rolls, I go down here. I change this C shape and now it's coming into a U shape. Now it's coming into a U shape on my hand like this. So I'm going to come up with this position when I go for the lunar laser flip. Just the same as I would for a barrel roll. So one more time, lunar, regular positioning here, adjust, go for the laser. I find that this makes it a lot easier to flip a laser a lot more accurately, getting your flips super consistent. And then of course your hand is also entirely out of the way of touching any part of the Ken when it comes back to land, which is also really nice because if it touches one of your fingers, of course, that's not going to count during the competition. I find that I'm super consistent at this trick if I make this little hand adjustment right here. So try it out for yourself and let me know what you think. Trick number 11, string pinch start, 1 turn inward stump lane fast hand. Guys, this is without a doubt one of the hardest tricks on the list for me personally, but I'm pretty sure everyone would agree that it would be one of the most difficult in the top 16 as well. Nobody really does string pinch starts too much, but if I had to give my perspective on things, I'm really emphasizing pulling in front of me very quickly at the start. I'm jolting in front with my 2 fingers here. And the reason being is because you want both the Ken and the tama to do an inward 1-turn flip. So of course the Ken has to do an inward 1-turn flip for you to complete this trick, but you want to do the same thing with the tama as well. And what I've noticed is that if I jolt out in front, really do a quick motion emphasizing going out in front of me, the tama tends to turn slightly quicker than the Ken, which will help you grab it in time, adjust, and get in a comfortable position for the stump lane fast hand. So it takes a lot of conscious effort, at least for me. I'm not thinking of just going through the motions, just pulling straight up, going inward with it. I'm actually thinking of going in front of me. I'm going in front with both of the items I'm holding, the Ken and the tama, because I want the tama to do a faster inward 1-turn spin. I want it to spin faster than the Ken. So as you can see here, guys, I'm thinking of all these steps I just mentioned, and you can see that the tama is rotating just a little bit faster than the Ken, which makes it a lot easier for me to grab and think about the fast hand, making it a lot easier to execute. That's about the only advice I have for this one. I'm still practicing it myself, but I found this to work the best for me. So apply this tip, really tug out in front of you, make the tama spin fast, and let me know if it also ups your success rate. Trick number 12, stilt, inward 0.5 house, inward 0.5 inward stilt, in. Guys, I don't know what to say for this one other than that you should have your basics dialed. One tip that I could give, it's very small, but pulling up small cup stilt instead of big cup stilt. So when you go here, inward here, you can just go straight down to big cup inward stilt here. But regardless, when performing this trick, obviously your knees are your best friend. You want to use them profusively. You generally want to use them as much as you can. So even if you find yourself coming all the way to the ground right here, I promise you it's worth it. Other than that, guys, there's not really much I can say, but just get good at your fundamentals, get good at your basics, use your knees. Remember what got you that first pick up, that first spike. It's all in the knees, guys. Same thing applies for this one. You don't want to be missing this one on stage. Trick number 13, inward gunslinger and down spike fast hands. My first tip for the inward gunslinger is to just practice it without the tom. Don't worry about the pull up. If you're new to this move, you're gonna wanna practice it with just the Ken in your hand. So the grip for the inward gunslinger is really just the same as a regular gunslinger. Even the angle of pull up is the same. So if you look at that, I'm pulling up, this is where my angle is for the inward. And then for the gunslinger, as you can see, I start slinging right here. So it's just the same. You really want to just focus on getting that first inward gunslinger around. Just practicing that sling movement in your hand. As you can see, what I'm doing is I'm starting out holding the cups like this in place to get it stable. And then right before I sling, I'm actually moving my thumb to here under the cup and I'm just going like this. I sling, stop with my thumb in the cup right here. And to reset, I'm back here under the cup to sling again. The thumb in the cup, when you stop the inward slinger, helps you really get a controlled catch on the Ken. I like to use my middle finger for inward gunslingers. You're slinging it down and you're really putting that finger in the crease of the cup right here. After you're done practicing in your hand, you can get consistent singles. You're now ready to move on to the down spike fast hands portion. If you're in pro, you already know how to do a down spike fast hands. And if you can't do this, you shouldn't be in this division. As you can see, I'm not pulling up and doing the inward gunslinger in the same motion. If you look closely, I pull the ball up first, and then I do the inward gunslinger. I'm gonna show that one more time. So first it's 1, then 2. For the down spike fast hands, my preferred grip looks a little like this. I'll do the inward gunslinger, and as you can see, this is where my hand positioning is as I stop it. Now, in slow motion, you're gonna be able to see that I actually move my middle finger, the one I slung with, to the cup to make sure my grip looks a little bit like this. I prefer this grip because it feels so seamless into a fast hand. The distance between my hand on the cups and the ball is minimal. After you get that down, it's just about repetition. Keep practicing this trick. The fast hand motion you already know. It's just about combining the inward gunslinger into that fast hand motion. Trick number 14, triple inward jumping stick. Again, for this one, guys, there's 2 ways. You can either pull out from underneath and generate the 3 flips like this, or you can cock the Ken back in your direction right here. So the base cup is kind of facing your head, your chest level. Cock back like this and fling it in front of you, like so, to get those 3 flips to go around. So here's the first way, and here's the second way. Cock back towards me, and lace. This one comes down to personal preference again, guys. Pick the one that's most comfortable for you. Commit to it, do it in the competition, do it right now. Get consistent, 3 for 3 on this one, guys. Someone is definitely going to miss this. If you get this one really, really consistent, you're bound to take a point against anybody you play. Trick number 15, 3-turn juggle spike. This trick for pro level players is an absolute staple in today's game. And honestly, might as well be considered a fundamental trick at this point because everyone does triple rotation juggles like this. You can do this 2 ways. Either one, do a full earth turn with your hand like I do. I always do it this way, especially for competition. Or the second way where you pull it up inward and juggle it back towards yourself. I find that doing the earth turn method, giving it a full push, a full earth turn, keeps the string out of my way, keeps it out of my hand. I never get tangled when I do this trick. But when I pull up inward, sometimes I notice that the string kind of catches onto one of my fingers. So just to be safe, I personally would do it with the full earth turn. Make sure you guys have this one 3 for 3. This one is definitely going to be super, super easy for 90% of the players competing. So make sure to be able to defend yourself and also capitalize when you get a chance. All right, guys, now we're moving on to the top 16 tricks. Trick number 1, triple stilt flip in. This trick used to be super difficult for anyone, but nowadays, guys, if you don't have this one consistent, I'm talking at least 2 to 3 times out of 10, man, this is going to be a rough one to lose a point on. I know that players are going to be able to hit this one. So many people are skilled nowadays, and triple still flip is just becoming a standard for pro level. For triple, nothing really special with technique is involved yet. It's all about practicing the fundamentals with your singles, with your doubles. Honing in your single and doubles is going to make the triple seem a lot easier to, not only one, because you're used to catching stilts, but two, the triple is broken down into a single and double flip. So of course you're going to be able to see it much easier the better you get at the basics. That's all I can really say about this one, guys. You know, it's one of my favorite tricks. Please get this one 3 times out of 3. You got this. Trick number 2, 1 turn tap, juggle late gunslinger spike. When I do gunslingers out of tap juggles, I always felt really good giving it an earth turn like that. I just think it gives me that extra millisecond to focus on where the tama is. I love how it just floats right down, and it's usually in the same position every single time. So for me, this is the most consistent way I can get 1 turn tap, juggle late gunslinger spike. Trick number 3, 3 tap flip in, 3 tap flip in. This one again is a pretty self-explanatory trick. A lot of people can tap, do many taps, have 6s consistent, but there's always a juggle at the end. And so if you're not practicing tap flips to in like this right now, something along these lines, getting these odd number taps on lock, specifically just the single tap J stick back to in, I would start messing around with that practice method now, because a lot of people can 3 tap, but to get the last in, that's going to mess a lot of people up. There's a lot of potential for taking points against someone else. It's going to be very hard to match if someone does it on you. So when you make top 16, when you get this trick pulled, I hope you have it to a decent level of consistency, because the person across from you likely does not. Trick number 4, goon circle, late KENFLIP spike. Everything is the same here for a normal goon circle. You want to throw it low and you want to throw it fast. So the technique doesn't really necessarily change there. You want to throw it low by your hip and throw it relatively fast. So once you are able to catch the Ken, the tama actually still has enough airtime for you to see it and spike it. As you can see, when we throw it low and fast, the tama just has this levitation time for a split second that it comes up, and you're able to track and go for the spike. When we're adding a late KENFLIP here, my recommendation, the way I personally do this, is letting the tama do a double earth turn instead of 1. Adding a late KENFLIP requires a lot more time, a lot more air time for the tama to have in order to get a clean spike. The tama does a double earth turn in midair as I'm doing the KENFLIP for the spike. Because I'm throwing the Ken super low, super fast, when I catch it and bring it up, the tama levitates. It just has a lot of air time, which makes it really, really easy to track the tama. Of course, since you have to do a KENFLIP, make sure to aim and try to catch the Ken out of the goon circle like this, right here by the base cup. It's going to be difficult, but as long as you have this mental cue in your head, some place to aim for, a target, you're going to likely catch it by there a lot more often. Notice how I'm doing these with a super late KENFLIP. I'm taking my time tracking the tama, giving it a lot of air time for me to make small adjustments to execute this trick with great consistency. Trick number 5, triple KENFLIP, late KENFLIP spike. This one, guys, is going to be super, super easy for many of the top 16 players. It's going to be like clockwork. It's going to be muscle memory. A lot of people have their triple KENFLIPs dialed in, especially if they're used to pulling up the tama and doing the KENFLIP at the same time. For all those people who pull up the tama first and then initiate your late KENFLIP right here, for this trick specifically, that's not going to be the best method. It's going to act as 2 lates instead of 1, like this. So I would recommend, if you haven't learned already, learning this method of doing a triple KENFLIP. And then from there, guys, is just honing in the late KENFLIP after that, which is practically the same difficulty in my opinion. Adding this 1 single late right here doesn't really change much, as long as you're pulling up the tama high enough. Really emphasize getting height on the tama. You want to get it as high as possible, so this late KENFLIP right here feels like nothing. Make sure you have this one 3 for 3, guys. People are not going to miss it. Trick number 6, 1 turn tap swap, inward throw swap, tap 1 turn in. One tip I can make sure to give on this one is making sure you're catching the Ken when it's perfectly straight in front of you, like this. You want the Ken facing in front of you like this, but also you want to be able to catch it by the base cup very loosely every time. So I would first practice, even without the inward juggle yet, just practicing this tap swap, making sure you don't catch it like this straight up, but you actually catch it down here. Not only down by the Ken, down by the base cup, but you want to catch the Ken when it's falling forwards, when the spike is facing away from you like this. Once you've got that, for my opinion, this is the best way to inward juggle from this position right here. And then from there, guys, once you have the inward juggle very clean, it's no longer something you're thinking about very consciously. This is when the practice comes in and the reps just need to be put in. The work just needs to happen. This will be a really great trick to capitalize on against many players. If you can get this one 2 to 3 times out of 10, you're more than likely to take a point against almost anybody. Trick number 7, 2 turn swap candlestick, double candlestick flip, trade Ken grip spike. Guys, I don't really have many tips for this one. It just comes down to a matter of, have you put the practice in or have you not? Are you using a Kanama that has a decently long spike, or are you not? A lot of this is about having the most optimal tool, especially for tricks like candlestick. It is such a Kanama specific trick, meaning that the difficulty of it changes based on the Kanama you're using. So make sure if you're going into top 16 to have a Kanama ready to execute this trick on very consistently. Once you're right here, for example, don't forget that you can adjust the direction of the Ken. Don't think that you have to go right into the double candlestick flip. Get it in the most comfortable position that you can, and then go for the double flip. As for the double flip, guys, it's just like a whirlwind. It reminds me of a whirlwind at least. Make sure you're flipping it a lot faster than you normally would. The worst part is not getting the flips to come around enough, meaning you won't even have a chance at landing this trick at all because you won't be able to catch the candlestick. What you want to be able to do is at least give yourself a chance at the execution. So give it a little force, make sure you're actually pushing with enough power for that double candlestick flip in order for it to fall nicely back into your fingers. So right here, I'm going to push hard, perfectly clean, right back into my fingers because I was able to push it and get it to come around 2 times. And then from here, it's up to you how you want to trade spike. I'm personally going to do it in one motion. Boom, push, barely caught that. Let's go. Trick number 8, inward lunar, flip cushion spike tap, small cup lunar, cushion flip in. This one, in all honesty, is not very difficult for the top 16 trick list. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have the Tama facing out to the side, just so that when you go to cushion the spike and have it land on the small cup lunar here, it doesn't get inside your bevel or anything like that. Nothing goes wrong. I like to move my bevel out to the side for specific tricks like this one, so it doesn't get in the way. So I'll pull up the inward lunar here, adjust my Tama like this, it comes out to the side like that, and now I'm ready for the cushion spike tap. For this one, again, if you have a longer spike, it's going to make it 10 times easier. So make sure you really just use your knees, make contact with the spike, and try not to flip this one too aggressively, because the spike right here, cushion spike taps are very, very delicate. So if you flip it too fast, it's going to hit the Tama at a speed where it's going to recoil and go like this, and of course, you can't catch a lunar when the Ken is standing up this way. Just use your knees, exaggerate the range of motion here, go all the way down, come up. You're gonna wanna let that spike just fall onto the Tama as delicately, as gently as possible. You barely want this Ken to move after it hits the spike coming down for the cushion, so be very, very gentle in the tap. And then from here, all you have to do is the cushion tap in. I would personally adjust my Tama again, like this, get it right under the lunar, so it makes for a really simple in. This way, I'm not having to think about where the Tama is for the spike. I already know it's in the perfect spot, so I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the trick off. Trick number 9, Nightingale, inward juggle the bird, spike. The best tip I have for this one, guys, is when you pull up on Nightingale, a lot of you are gonna think it's awkward to inward juggle out of this, and I agree, at first it is, but I'm going to start with my hand down here, down by the base cup of the Ken, and once you go for the inward juggle, notice how I don't start juggling right away. Notice how I wait to initiate this juggle. The reason being is because I want the Ken facing forward, exactly like I said before, for optimal inward juggle positioning. You want to have the Ken facing forward like this before you do anything. So in this moment when I'm preparing for the inward juggle, I take that extra millisecond. That's why it looks like I just kind of freeze for a sec to get a nice, comfortable inward juggle off. And then for many of you, not even worrying about the Tama control right now, not even worrying about getting on bird, it's probably in your best interest, because this is going to be very, very difficult, very awkward at just this step right here, at just the inward juggle part. So I would forget about the bird for a little while. I would practice to spikes, maybe just getting reps in general to cups. But guys, don't forget, we are down here, hand down by the base cup, getting into position, coming up nice little buffer. Make the Ken go all the way, adjust, and then get it on the bird for the spike. Once you get this adjustment down mid-air, you're going to be taking a lot of points from a lot of people. Trick number 10, airplane, 1.5 swap, late gunslinger, juggle 1 turn in. There's 2 things I keep in mind when doing this trick, guys. 1, I have the timing control on lock because I spin it. I'm really used to spinning out of a 1.5 swap, like so, especially for juggle airplane tricks like this. So because I can spin without even really paying attention to the ball, I already know once I catch it again, the tomahole is going to be facing straight up, giving me that perfect positioning to land it back in the airplane. So make sure, 1, your ball control is on lock. Make sure it's very consistent with how you catch it after the release. For example, you could practice using this trick right here. Airplane, juggle, airplane. And then for the gunslinger part, I don't focus on catching and then doing a gunslinger. It's not a 2-step thing for me. It happens all at once. I'm one of those players that likes to slide my finger in without catching the Ken. You'll notice here that I'm not really catching it with my full hand. I'm just sliding my finger in, it comes around, it wraps around into the rest of my fingers, and I'm able to grip it for a nice juggle. I personally think this is the most seamless way to do this trick. 1, having your timing control automatic, very consistent every single time. And then 2, almost looking at this like a regular juggle airplane, because that's what it feels like once you have this tech down right here. Sliding my index finger into the slot, it comes back and falls naturally into the rest of my hand, and then from here, I'm ready to do a nice, clean juggle airplane. One more time. Clean Thomas spin, sling, spike. This one, I believe, if people have good gunslinger namas, are going to be nulling 3 for 3. People are not going to be missing this one that much. Get very consistent at it because it is one that is going to be matched a lot. Trick number 11, 4-tap, juggle spike. Guys, if you're in the top 16 of BATB, the biggest competition in North America, you need to be able to do this trick. In fact, I'm just going to assume that every single person in the top 16 can do a 4-tap very comfortably. So for pro level players, there's not really going to be any tips for this one. Just make sure by any means necessary that you at least make it to the juggle part right here. It's always tough to not even be able to get to this last part to get a chance at the spike. So really, if anything, just hone in your 4-taps. And I mean just the taps. Make sure you're really good at just getting 4 taps off, because as long as you're able to make it to the end, to the last juggle of spike, it's going to be very, very rare for you to actually miss that. At least that's the standard nowadays. I hardly ever see anybody miss a juggle to spike out of any tap KENFLIP line. Definitely have this one 3 for 3. You're going to regret it if you don't. Trick number 12, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, back and forth lighthouse flips in. This one requires no explanation. I'm practically going to skip it. It's just a bunch of consistency, a bunch of fundamentals that's required to lace this one on the stage. So you're going to get your practice in very, very well, step by step, by just performing this trick time after time after time. But a personal tip that I have for inward lighthouses specifically, I tend to tilt them to a slight angle. For me, I'm left-handed, so it's going this way on my body. If I was right-handed, I'd be holding like this, and I would go like this. It's very, very subtle, but I just think that it helps me actually be able to see the inward rotations a little bit better. So much so that I'd actually say that I'm more confident on tracking inwards than regular flips. So once again, just practice this one just like so. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just go through it 1-1, 2-2. And for the 3s, really use your knees. And then calm, go for the in. Trick number 13, 2-turn lunar, double lunar barrel roll, inward 2-turn in. This one is one of the most difficult tricks on the list, guys. Make sure, the one tip I have for this, the one thing I want to mention, is to remember the positioning of your hand when going for the double lunar barrel roll. Change it from regular lunar position like this, down here, make that C shape to a U, and then go for the barrel roll, push it with your wrist like so, and chances are it's going to be a clean double flip. Notice how right there it spun so perfectly on axis. Get into the habit of adjusting your hand down right over here, pushing with your wrist to the side as straight as possible, and watch the barrel rolls come off perfectly. Everything else besides the barrel roll is just extra at this point. The first 2-turn lunar should be done every single try by pros in the top 16. The double lunar barrel roll is the hardest part, of course. But once you land it right here, all you have to do is lock in for the 2-turn inward flip to in. This one is going to take a couple breaths. Guys, make sure to know that you have all the time in the world up on stage. Relax, reposition your tama if needed, use your knees, and float it into the hole. Trick 14, double stunt plane flip, fast hands. I have an entire tutorial on stunt plane flip fast hands, that trick as a concept, so I'm gonna leave that right down here in the description. But my main tip for this trick is really just the angle at which you catch the Ken at. For example, when I started trying this trick, I would try and catch it right here. And that works for some people. Honestly, most people actually catch the stunt plane fast hands, and fast hands when the Ken is a little away from them, straight up, or facing towards you, facing towards your head. I prefer this angle right here. It makes it a little more easy for me to track, and also I believe that it stops the momentum a little bit better than these angles right here, so it can actually bring me a bigger success rate of catching the Ken for a fast hand. It wasn't until I learned that tip that I started to progress these super fast. So be mindful on catching the Ken, not here, but when it's actually looking at you a little bit right here, tilting towards you, and then going for the fast hands. Another tip is that when you flip the Ken, make sure you're always leading with your tama hole facing away from you. If I do this and I go for it and I stop, the string hole, when I look at it, is facing me. It's basically fully parallel to my eyes. This would be fully parallel. This is where the angle is. You can't even tell the difference on camera. So I'm looking straight onto it and I see the top string hole. This is where I like to have the tom hole placing as I'm about to do a fast hands. Of course, try and get singles down first. If you can't do a single, you're not ready for the double, try and get this single at least 3 times in a row before you go for the doubles and start practicing them. I promise you, getting the feeling on a single will help you so much in your progression towards mastering the double. Trick number 15, inward lunar tray, inward lunar laser, trade spike. So this is the last trick on the list. I was trying to figure out what exact tips I would have for this one because I can do both ways, but I didn't really know how I would exactly teach a certain tip for inward lunar laser until now. What you want to keep in mind is the flick of your wrist. Inward lunar trades, for example, you're pushing into your body, going across your body. So for example, I'm left-handed, it's going to look something like this. And then Zack being right-handed, it's going to look like this. It's very subtle, but when I was breaking down this trick, I noticed I do a slight little twist with my wrist here, like this, pushing to the inside. And so I thought if I replicated that movement going to the outside for the inward lunar laser, it would help. And sure enough, just that mind muscle connection alone, just having something to do to initiate the flip every single time with no guessing, it really helped me up my consistency with inward lunar lasers. Before, like I said, I didn't really know why I could do them. I could just do them. But with a mental cue like this to follow, with something you know you're going to do every time before you initiate the trick, it really just helps instill confidence in the player and in turn helps you hit it a lot more.